Sam's Garage has been bringing you valuable tips and techniques for years. Master mechanic Sam Madavi is well known for successfully completing hundreds of engine swaps, turbo and supercharger installs, and high-performance engine builds. Sam will share his expertise in automotive diagnostics, saving you time and money. Straight talk and honest advice here on Sam's Garage, presented by Lokar Performance Products.
Folks, this is one of my favorite builds. 2 years ago, we built this 67 Camaro for a friend of mine, and today we're going to replace the wire harness because we didn't do it back then. And who do I have with me? None other than Dennis from Painless Performance.
And I brought you something special today.
Really?
Right off the production line. This is the very first one just for Sam's Garage.
That's exciting.
And we call it our new Pro Series.
Pro Series?
You know, we have engineers that wire cars on the side and weekends and things like that.
Right.
And they put together this kit of all the different parts that it takes to do a job like this particular one, this Camaro here. And it's not a direct fit kit, it's more of a universal type, but it has all the direct fit parts, all the terminals, all the housings, the heat shrink, everything to do the job right. And so what you gotta do is mount it, route the wires, cut them to length, and use the factory style terminals and housings just like you would if it was a direct fit kit.
And that sounds like a nice clean install because like you said, you've made the wires longer, you cut them to length instead of having to take length out to try to make a wire harness look good and fit right.
That's correct.
So for all you guys who are building custom hot rods out there, this is the perfect kit for you. It covers all the circuits that you need to make that car work and function, and you can make it look really good by hiding all the wires.
Another thing nice about this particular kit is this car, you know, it has a bulkhead connector for the engine compartment. And man, look at that 6-gauge wire for your charge wire.
There you go. That's what you need,
that's a
because
nice
these days, a lot of people are adding electronics in these older cars, and you need that extra amperage, and that's what that extra wire and the alternator is going to do for them.
In this car, there is not a solder joint.
Exactly.
So we give you all the heat shrink, the special terminals and so forth it takes to put it all, and just everything possible that we could think of, we put in this kit.
Okay, what you guys notice is I removed the battery terminal and I started with the negative cable first because the last thing you want to do is possibly create an arc, shorting it to ground. It can create a mess on the inside. Now what I've got is James, my head technician, is tearing apart the car on the inside, removing the sill, the seats, and the dashboard so we can take that harness out of it. And I'm going to go on this side and start working on the driver's side fender well. Now folks, the cool thing about this Painless Performance Pro Series harness is that it still comes with all the traditional features that makes Painless so great, which is one, describing the circuit or the wire that you're working with all the way down to the end so that it makes for the guesswork go away. It makes it very painless to install that harness. And they've added a couple of extra circuits in the fuse blocks for these newer accessories, as in, you know, Bluetooth, car audio systems. These days we're putting LS motors in these cars and we run aftermarket gauges and we need power for that. High amp alternators, they've thought of it all.
Now, another thing that we've done here is, you know, this car has a traditional bulkhead connector from GM.
Right.
And in the 67, 68, and 69s, they were a little bit smaller than what we're currently using today.
Right.
And the reason we use the larger one is because it allows us to do exactly what you were just talking about. It gives us more circuits that we can run through the firewall, you know, for whatever it might be, you know, EFI or whatever it might be we're going to put on the engine.
Right.
And it still allows us to have all the circuits that we need for backup lights, cruise control, everything is made in this one kit.
Now this particular harness comes with everything you need except for power windows, correct?
Everything, yes. Now we have one coming out that's not off the production line yet that will have power windows and locks, yes.
There you go, that's perfect. For all you guys who are building hot rods, that's the one you need for you, because a lot of guys are putting power windows in all those hot rods and shaving the handles as well.
In the past, we've always had what we call a maxi fuse to protect the whole car, right? Well, now we use what we call a MIDI fuse, M-I-D-I.
Right.
And it's a fuse that it's real small. It's available at every parts store in the country.
Well, why don't you do me a favor and hang out? I want to show you a project. I'd like to kind of pick your brain on a project, and we can go ahead and get the installation done on this car. What do you think about that?
Works for me, man.
All right.
Sam's Garage, presented by Lokar Performance Products, is brought to you by Lokar. Quality, plain and simple. Heart of Appalachia, Virginia is for lovers. Rod and Supply. We don't just sell them, we race them. H-E-M Saw, the saw that cuts straight. This is Performance Shop, presented by Tough Stuff Performance Accessories.
Man, I am really excited about this particular build we're going to be doing this season on Sam's Garage. We got ourselves a 1965 C10 pickup truck from my good friend Robert. And you can see it's already slammed to the ground in the way of an air suspension system, and that's why it makes it a perfect candidate for our Tough Stuff 100 amp one wire internally regulated alternator, because we need extra power to run the compressor and to run all the accessories that we're going to be building on this truck, because we're going to keep a patina, okay? So we're going to go ahead and start by removing the alternator. And you guys, when it comes to Tough Stuff, now this thing is a 65 and it's got an externally regulator on the alternator, and we're going to get rid of all that because our Tough Stuff alternator has a one wire deal with an internal regulator, and that's going to just make it much cleaner underneath the hood. Now also remember that whenever you guys are working on your truck or your car at home and you're doing a job like this, I always tell my employees at the shop, make sure to remove everything and get it out of your way. You know, a lot of times they'll be lazy and remove one bolt, let the other bolt stay there loose and kind of hang the brackets out of the way, but they always fall back down, getting in your way. So the best thing to do, it just takes a couple more minutes to go ahead and remove the hardware, remove the brackets, and do everything on the bench. That way you have plenty of room to work around the engine, and it'll make the job actually faster, even though you got to remove extra parts. We have many different finishes that we could be putting into this vehicle, but this one, little patina, not a lot of bling, so we went ahead and went with the black version, okay? And it is the Stealth Black. Now they also have a polished chrome, they have factory cast plus, black chrome, and ours is Stealth Black, but it's got a nice shiny chrome pulley on it as well. And don't forget, even though they powder coated it, and they took the measure of scraping off the powder coat for ground, they even give you the ground eyelet just for safe measure. So make sure to hook that up, even though they've taken care of that for you, okay? Reversing the brackets onto our new alternator, and we'll go ahead and put it in the truck. Now what I've done is ran a new power wire, heavier gauge. I've got a 2-gauge power wire on this, and the good thing is that Tough Stuff actually sells power wire for most of your custom applications. They've got different lengths. We needed about 4 feet of it, so we had to run our own. I got James going out getting me a 100 amp inline fuse for that power wire to make sure it's protected, because it is going behind the motor and you never know what can happen down the road. It's always a good idea to make sure that anytime you have a hot wire, that you have that wire fused. All right, we're gonna keep everything loose. I'm gonna go ahead and put my top bracket in place. And remember guys, sometimes these bolt holes that come from different manufacturers, they're gonna have different size threads. Okay, like for instance, this one's a metric and it's gonna have to go back in with a standard, believe it or not. So I've got me a standard 5/16 18 course thread. And we're gonna go ahead and put our bracket on. There we go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and hand tighten this one right here. Now the way this bracket is set up, I'm gonna have to run my belt over the alternator before I run down this last bolt for the bracket. So it's a little tight. We're gonna put it on just like that, grab our hardware, and put in our bracket where it was on the intake manifold. And then we can go ahead and tension our belt, tighten everything up, and hook up our wiring. And in this case, that's gonna be the most simple part because it is a one wire deal. I've already ran my heavy power wire and we'll be good to go. Now I've already hooked up one side of my ground to the intake manifold. I'm gonna hook up the other side of my ground to the alternator itself, and that'll pretty much wrap up this project.
Here's McKee's 37 Trademark Garage with Nick Rudder.
Modern vehicles are covered in plastic trim. Every new car manufactured in the last 20 years has this pebble textured plastic somewhere. Could be along the bottom, the windshield cowl, the front bumper. There's a number of different places. And this trim fades over time. McKee's 37 Wax Remover for Plastic is an intense cleaner that removes stubborn wax stains and it preps it for our plastic trim restore. This product is very strong. Simply spray it on It's going to remove the old wax by dissolving it, but it's not going to damage the surrounding materials like the paint or the glass or the chrome. Take a stiff brush, and you want to quickly scrub the trim. Take a clean microfiber towel, wipe it off, and then the next step is plastic trim restore. This is going to restore the color. It's a clear polymer sealant. It's not a dressing that washes off. A little bit goes a long way. It's going to restore the factory appearance, and it's not going to run when it gets wet. Works on all color plastic trim, and it only takes minutes to apply. These two products are so good that Bob McKee put his name on them.
I'm here in the Hypertech booth with Chris, and I absolutely love Hypertech because they're the most versatile, easy-to-use programmer on the market today. Chris is going to tell us more about the feature of the new Max Energy 2.0.
Thanks. The new Max Energy 2.0 has it supports all the CAN-based vehicles. So this is your GM, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, gas, diesel, car, truck. Most applications from like 05 to current year model, all in one part number. The Max Energy 2.0 is an upgraded model. We've got a backlit screen. You can save up to 3 tuning options. So if you go in and pick the options in the programmer, you can name them and save them to come back to them later. One of the universal features of the programmer is the ability to adjust the tire pressure monitoring sensor alarms on your vehicle. So if you go to an aftermarket tire and wheel that operates at a lower pressure than factory, you can turn off those annoying alarms, or at least lower the pressure down so that the alarm isn't going off, but you still have it in place there. So,
and that's a very cool feature. And let me tell you, the sensitivity of the throttle, when you change that, it really wakes up that vehicle. It's probably one of the best features on it. And you can adjust the shift points, correct?
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people want to adjust shift points, and most tuners give you the option to do that at wide open throttle, but we've added a feature called shift response that lets you do the part throttle shifting. And you can adjust it based on mileage, fuel economy, performance, or even a track setting. So this adjusts the part throttle shifting strategy on it to be less aggressive or more aggressive. So you can set that up the way you like it without having to pay a custom tuner extra money to do that feature for you.
And this year, Chris is going to come on board with us at Sam's Garage. We're going to install one of these and we're going to dyno test it.
Welcome to the Brothers Truck Parts Workshop.
Guys, we got this 1979 Chevy pickup truck, and I've got Steve Flanders with me from Brothers Truck Parts, and we're going to be doing a number of things to this truck, right? What are we going to do first?
The first thing we're going to do is swap out this old windshield, and we got some problems here. We've got silicone down here in the glass, so somebody had a leak and they were trying to fix that, and they did it the wrong way. Right. And we can tell that the rubber is old, almost 40 years, and it's pulling back a little bit here on the bottom and up across here at the top, and the lock bead's falling out. So we're going to show people how to do that at home. You're going to cut this inner lip out all the way around. See, now the glass is just basically ready to fall out. All right, so this is just going to push out.
Look at that. Okay, now what do we do?
We're going to take this rubber seal off the body. We got the channel cleaned out from the old gasket, and we got our new gasket on the body, and this is a common problem. I'm telling you, everybody calls about this, and they go, oh man, my gasket's a couple inches too long. So what really happened here is that we weren't aggressive enough about pushing the gasket into the corners, and you probably got a big gap where you can stick your finger under the rubber down there. Absolutely. I got one on my side too. So what we need to do is pull this back off a little bit, and then we're going to use our strength, and we're going to push this rubber real hard down into this corner. And the more rubber that we push down in this corner, the more that gap's going to close. And right now I can't even get my finger under, but we're just going to keep working that. And eventually, oh yeah, there we go, see? We'll get all that rubber down, pushed in there, and we'll come back up to the top. And then sometimes you'll experience the same thing up in these upper corners, and that's real easy to fix. We'll get this on here, and then we'll kind of pull it like this, nice and tight into the corners here. And then when we come across, we won't have any extra weather seal here in the center. And then if guys are having this weather seal, typically these don't fall off after we got them on right, but if your weather seal droops in the middle, you throw a little tape right over the middle while you're waiting to put your glass in. All right, you see how we took the slack out of there? We've got the corners, mine's laying nice and flat on the body. We're gonna get a great seal out of that. Our next step, we're gonna put the seal the silicone around the glass to make the glass go in nice and easy. All right, now this is where we just take the fiber stick and we just peel it around the glass. We don't want to put a lot of pressure on the glass because if you do, then you won't be able to get the rubber out from behind it, so you use your fingers here. So we got our glass in. What this seal is, it's kind of your standard seal. It doesn't have a lock bead, so it's got its own self-locking lip. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take this lip and we're gonna fold this open like this, and we're gonna stuff this lip inside itself, and that's gonna lock the glass into the windshield, into the seal, and that'll be it. Putting in this lock bead was pretty tedious, but you know what? You're gonna be able to do it at home. You just gotta stick with it, work your way around, and keep reapplying your silicone. We're gonna ice the cake with a new rear view mirror, and I think Sam's got a couple tips for that.
For sure. What you want to do is when you guys, a lot of people will remove the piece that bolts up or glues onto the windshield away from the mirror, and that's not good because a lot of times you'll put it on upside down or backwards, and you don't want to do that. So I like to keep it together. That way I can position it on the windshield, scuff up the back side, use your applicator, cleaning the surface really well, okay? And where you're gonna put it, making sure you like where it's gonna go. That way it'll adhere better, giving us long-lasting performance. You guys will have to sit here and hold it until it gets tacky and dries. That'll complete the install of the mount for the mirror. So tune in next week where we're gonna change out this dash pad on the inside and start making the truck look good on the inside as well.
Sam's Garage, presented by Locar Performance Products, is brought to you by KBS Coatings. Rust stops here. LMC Truck. Restore, maintain, customize. Parts and accessories for Chevy, GMC, Ford, and Dodge trucks and SUVs. Lund. Make it yours with Lund Truck Accessory. Z-Max Micro Lubricant, the one product for your engine and fuel system.
When you guys are installing head gaskets, make sure that you do not touch the surface of the gasket with your fingertips. You want to make sure to hold only the edges. We're going to slide our gaskets down. I've already installed the ARP lube on our studs. And what I'm putting together here with our SCE gaskets is a 376 LS motor. Now you guys know SCE has had gaskets for you 350s and big block Chevy engines and Fords. And for all you racers who are using the copper head gaskets, and all you street guys with the headers who are using the copper exhaust manifold gaskets to keep yourselves reliable and not blow out gaskets all the time. Well, they've got a whole line of gaskets now for the LS motor. As you can see, I just used a multi-layer MLS head gasket. Mine happens to be 51,000s. And they've got them in many different sizes in case you guys want to vary your compression ratio. Okay. Now the cool thing is they've got intake manifold gaskets for the LS motor. They've even got the O-rings. They've got the front timing cover, the rear timing cover, and as you can see, I've got my oil pan gasket right there. So I'm going to go ahead and button up my head, and I'm going to have one of my guys bring me the oil pan so we can button up the bottom.
It's time for the Lund International Custom Shop.
My daughter turned 16 this year, and she's been coming up to me and saying, "Dad, I want a new car." I can't afford these new cars, especially these new trucks. We're going to show you how you can take an older truck. We got a 2011 Ford F-150 here. We got it from a farm. As you can see, it's pretty dirty, looks a little used, but it's got a lot of potential. We're going to take this truck and first we're going to detail it, making it ours. And then we're going to do the traditional lift, wheels and tires, and add a bunch of accessories that's going to make this truck stand out from the rest. It's going to look just like the newer trucks that you can get, except we're going to spend half the money and look just as good. I'm a master technician and we do a lot of pre-purchase inspections, and this thing checks out bumper to bumper. The drivetrain has a lot of life still left on it. Now we've already had this thing detailed. It looks almost new. We've already installed, James and I, the Ready Lift. We got the 2.5-inch blocks in the rear, and now we're going to go ahead and install the fronts. We have put the 2.5-inch leveling kit on top, but we've also added a 2-inch spacer in the middle because we raised the rear 2.5 inches, and this will level out the truck. Now before you put this back in, you have to remember to put the brand new upper A-arm that comes with urethane bushings from Ready Lift in the kit in first, because you got to put the bolts in through the A-arm before you can get the spring in. And the good thing about these upper A-arms having urethane bushings usually you would have had to tighten these upper control arm bolts with the vehicle weight on the ground. But because urethane bushings have a floating sleeve in the middle, you can go ahead and tighten them up, move it up and down, and it will never bind on you. You guys make sure that when you're doing your spring installation, you mark it from the top to the bottom so that you have everything in line, and that way your upper mount that goes in one way will make for a nice, easy install. We're gonna put the bottom in, move our upper arm up, put the top in, we'll raise it up into place, and tighten the 3 nuts on top. That'll keep the strut in place while you go ahead and install the bottom. And as you can see, we disconnected the ABS lines and the brake lines in order not to put any strain on them so that we don't lose those guys, having to purchase new ones. Now I could go ahead and put my bottom bolts in. And whenever you're doing suspension, you always want to disconnect the sway bar because that puts tension on both sides, keeping you from being able to swing the suspension up and down fully in order to get everything loose and out of the way, making it for an easier install. This spacer comes in the kit for the new upper arm. You put the spacer on first, put the A-arm in place. It comes with a new cotter pin. Put your nut on, just like that. And now everything's in place so we can go ahead and tie up our brake lines and reconnect our sway bar. All right, that pretty much does it for the suspension install. This thing's gonna look really nice with these 18-inch fuel off-road wheels and Mickey Thompson tires that James is gonna go ahead and slap up there for us. Now you guys, we could do an upper control arm with urethane bushings. Please make sure to lube up those bushings prior to assembly. And we did have one grease fitting that we had to grease up on the upper control arm. These fuel off-road wheels do come with centering rings, so you want to make sure to put those in. That's going to take up the space between the wheel and the hub, making for a much smoother ride. Man, James, that's going to look really good. Yeah, 305 is very close to a 35-inch tall tire.